Oxley Nature Center is a free-to-the-public park located in Mohawk Park alongside the Tulsa Zoo. Our gates are open early in the morning year-round, so if you're like me and you like getting up at 5 a.m. to go birding, then Oxley's the place for you. The center has over 800 acres of land, featuring a variety of well-managed habitats, including a forest, marsh, prairie, ponds, and even a lake that was hand-dug during the Great Depression. With over 700 species of plants, 250 birds, and 38 mammals being observed in the park. Now, I'm not saying this just because I'm a volunteer and have bias, but Oxley's one of the best places in Oklahoma to go on a nature walk. Our trails are well managed and are easy to walk on. There's even a path where you could easily take a wheelchair or a stroller. Even if you're not a big fan of being outdoors, Oxley just might change your mind. Just make sure to bring bug spray. I started volunteering at Oxley over a year ago. I had a job as a graphic artist back then, and I wasn't able to volunteer as much as I liked to. However, a few months after I started volunteering, I quit my job and fell into a bad depression. As a way to distract myself, I started to help with school tours at Oxley, which ultimately ended up being the best choice for my life back then. During the school tours, we walk the kids around the park and educate them about the organisms that live there. Their grade ranges from 1st to 6th, which presents a challenge in figuring out what concepts they can grasp. Like the other day, I tried teaching 3rd graders about how birds can see in ultraviolet, which they did not get at all. I also have to keep in mind what school these children come from. For example, I try to avoid the E word when we have Christian groups. When leading these groups, I try to make everything interesting. I point out plants that have uses, like fleabane, a plant that can be used as a natural mosquito repellent. I sometimes point out plants that are edible, like common yellow oxalis, though we've had a few cases of parents getting offended that we would let their children eat dirty forest floor flowers. Children tend to be very interested in large animals, often asking if there are moose or tigers in the woods. I personally like to point out birds and bring up facts I know about them, to show kids that the large animals aren't exactly the most interesting. For example, American crows and fish crows, both of which are found in Oxley, will name their offspring. They have special vocalizations that they will only use when around a certain individual, and they will often say their own name when approaching a nest to make sure that their mate doesn't think they're an intruder. Crows, ravens, and parrots are the only known animals that give names to their offspring. Children either think it's the coolest fact, or they'll just ignore me and ask me when lunchtime is. I don't just lead school tours, I also lead a birding tour every first Saturday of each month. People on the birding tours are usually old enough to be my grandparents. Yet it's nice because they're always so impressed by my abilities and my knowledge of birds. I always get a lot of praise during these tours, which naturally makes me feel better about myself. I mentioned earlier that before I became an active volunteer, I was in a depressive state. At my job, I was being constantly belittled and underappreciated. Yet at Oxley, people loved me and praised me. They were so impressed by my knowledge. They often asked where I went to college, like I already gotten a degree. Volunteering helped me realize where my place was in the world, and that was educating people about nature. Now, I'm going for a career in ornithology, which is the study of birds. Very few people are majoring in natural sciences, and I've already been promised a job out of college, and I'm barely into my first year of basics. In the end, I gave Oxley a little bit of my time, but it gave a lot in return.